On July 6th, 2019, the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis to pair with LeBron James. And now we are on July 6th, 2025, and we have speculations that LeBron might not be a Laker by the time that September rolls around. So let's talk about, the trade rumors and if I think LeBron is going to actually get traded or if he's going to stay on the Lakers, at least for this season, because this is the last year of his contract. So let's talk about it. So, funny enough, I don't know, I guess like 4 days ago at this point, 5 days ago, whenever it was, I made a video where I was on live. If you were on that stream, shout out to you. But I was on live stream just talking about, free agency and the offseason moves. And one of the things that I brought up, I was like, I see, like, it was when LeBron opted into his contract. It was either right after he opted in or right before. I forget which one it was. But it was before Rich Paul made his statement, and that's why it's really important. So LeBron either opted in or he was about to opt in. And I was like, I just have this funny feeling that LeBron is going to potentially be traded. I didn't think it was a guarantee. He obviously loves, being in LA and the Lakers and his son is there and stuff like that. But I just had this funny feeling. I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like it's different. I feel like I could see LeBron being traded, and the team that I said, in that video I was like, what if he goes home to the Cavs? Now, I think there are two teams off the top of my head who are probably the top two possibilities in my mind of trading for LeBron potentially. But we'll get into that. But the Cavs were the team that I said in that live stream. And the reason I said that is because, again, I think it was right after he opted in, but it was 100% before the Rich Paul statement. Because the next day, Rich Paul made his statement, and I'm like, wait, that's like really funny and ironic because I just was talking about LeBron being traded. But the reason I said that in that video was because I was like, LeBron knows, and it is 100% clear, that the Lakers are building for the future. As soon as they got Luka, it was clear that they were going to start building for the future. But like obviously that season, they were still technically building around LeBron in a sense because LeBron was still on the team and not on the last year of his deal. And they knew that they had a chance to make the playoffs and potentially, do something with LeBron and Luka combined. I know they went out to try to get Mark Williams and then rescinded the trade, which was a big that plays well with Luka. Obviously, they were trying to bring in an athletic big for Luka, but at the same time, it was still a team built around LeBron more so than Luka at that point. But once the offseason rolled around, or once the offseason was about to roll around, the writing was on the wall that this team is building around Luka. Like, it was just as clear as day. And LeBron knows that, and LeBron knew that. So when all this is happening, again, I was like, I could see LeBron going back home to Cleveland. Why? Well, obviously, that is where that's his home. But the thing is, like, what a storybook ending for LeBron to go back to the Cavs and then, like, retire a Cav. And the thing that I said that made it make sense right now was that the team is really good and the East is wide open. So if LeBron wants to win more championships, which, again, the Rich Paul statement came out the next day, and Rich Paul's statement indicates that he wants to win more championships. So if that's true, I'm like, this would be his best shot, to go back to the NBA Finals, to go to the East, because the Cavs have a really good team, and they would have a great chance by adding LeBron. Now, the tricky part about, trading for LeBron, and this is why, a couple of reports have come out that teams would only be interested if he was bought out, which I'll discuss in a minute. But the reason I thought it made sense for the Cavs, but the tricky part is that the Cavs would have to shed some salary first in order to be able to trade for LeBron because of their financial, situation with the aprons and stuff like that. So it would have been, or would be, a little bit trickier for them. So fair enough, which is why if LeBron got bought out, it would be so much easier for any team, obviously. But I thought there was still, and I still do think, that there is a possibility that a trade could get done with the Cavs, and it would be a little bit trickier, of course, but like I think there's a way that it could get done. And I think that the main player, in the trade would be Darius Garland. Now, I'm a fan of Darius Garland. I'm not calling for him to be traded. But we heard the reports that Darius Garland was included in trade talks, I believe, for Kevin Durant at the trade deadline or somebody. And there have just been, rumblings and rumors that they might be trading Darius Garland. So I thought if they could get a trade done, it's a win-win, scenario. They'll work out the money, like I said, and stuff like that. But a win-win scenario in the sense that the Lakers would be adding, I wouldn't call Darius like a pure point guard. Like he definitely is a really, really, really good scorer also. But he is someone who can get you 10 assists a game. Like he's pretty pure in terms of his passing. And he's like one of the really, really good passers in the league. Like his passing is so underrated. So I felt like they would get someone on Luka's timeline to pair with Luka, another, like that backcourt. The defense obviously would be, they would need more defenders, of course, because Darius is not the best defender and we know Luka. But I felt like it could have been a win-win situation because the Lakers are not going to be able to get a Darius Garland type player in free agency, at the moment. So I was like, they win from that sense, whatever the deal is. And then the Cavs get LeBron. And then you still have Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. And then, DeAndre Hunter and the bench and stuff like that. So that team is really good still. And they traded for Lonzo, which is why I thought it made more sense for LeBron to go there. Because the thing that triggered it for me, actually now that I'm remembering properly, is when they traded for Lonzo. That is when I said, LeBron to the Cavs. And the reason was because I'm like, are we sure Lonzo's going to be the backup point guard because of the Darius Garland rumors, like I said? So now they have, or they would have had potentially their point guard in Lonzo, so don't have to worry about that. Then you could trade for LeBron, and LeBron will also play point guard. So I was like, I don't know, that Lonzo trade sounds a little twofold to me, if you know what I mean. Now, obviously, I don't have any information on that. That was just my reading of the situation. Could be wrong. They could be just trading for Lonzo for a backup point guard because obviously he'd be a really good one if he stays healthy. So I'm not saying I am right on that, but that was my thought process when the Lonzo trade happened. That is what triggered my thoughts of LeBron being traded to the Cavs, or just trying to go back home or whatever. So I think that's a storybook ending for him. The other team that we have heard, potential rumors about is LeBron being traded to the Knicks. Now, I know people are like, oh, LeBron's to the Knicks. Like, that's never going to happen, right? Hear me out for a second. I was watching the Hoop Collective, that's Brian Windhorst's podcast with Tim McMahon and Tim Bontemps. And like, if you watch this page, I talk about, I like watching Brian Windhorst. Like, I think he's a really good analyst. And I feel like he gives good insights, that you don't necessarily know or hear often. And one thing that they said in their podcast, maybe a couple days ago or whatever, that I didn't realize because I didn't even think about it, was that Jordan Clarkson, I believe it was when Jordan Clarkson signed with the Knicks. Jordan Clarkson is a Clutch client. If you don't know what, who Clutch is and stuff like that, that's Rich Paul's agency. That is who LeBron's agent is and stuff like that. And like, if you know, Rich Paul, LeBron, Clutch Sports, right? So the reason that it was a bit significant that they even pointed out in the podcast is that a Clutch client has not signed with the Knicks for, a good chunk of time. Just go look up the history of Clutch Sports and the Knicks and, all that stuff. You have to go look it up. You might go down the rabbit hole, but it'll be worth it just to understand the whole point. So I say all that to say, they were pointing out that that's kind of significant because that kind of indicates that, a Clutch client could end up with the Knicks again. They didn't say that. That was what I got from their, little implications. Again, they didn't say that, but that's what I took from it. So I was like, You got to read between the lines. So I was like, oh, okay. LeBron could end up with the Knicks. And the reason that it kind of makes sense as well, now to get a deal done without giving up a ton, the Knicks would have to give Karl Anthony Towns because that pretty much makes the salary match. So that is, to be determined on whether or not that would be a good trade. Whatever. I'm not here to discuss if Karl Anthony Towns for LeBron is a good trade or not. That is not my point here. My point is, it is definitely possible. And from LeBron's standpoint, because we're just talking about LeBron being traded, going to the Knicks and bringing them a championship. Obviously, he would still have Jalen Brunson and OG and Mikal Bridges and, a really nice roster. So going to a team that hasn't won a championship in like 52 years, like if LeBron wants, all the praise and, all the stuff like that, going to the Knicks and winning a championship there definitely gives him bonus points, so to speak. Like, I know that championships, all should count the same, so to speak. Like, it's tricky, but like, you know what I'm saying. Like, a championship is a championship. However, like, some of them have different meanings and values behind them if they happen. So if LeBron goes to the Knicks and they win a championship, that is going to have a lot of really positive implications for him. So that's why I say that is definitely a possibility, because I don't think LeBron's going to just up and leave LA to just go to any team. I think if he's going to leave, it's likely to the East. I guess he could go to a Western Conference team, but I feel like it would be more likely for him to leave to go to the East, just because I said it makes more sense, because it's easier to get to the finals right now because the path is wide open. And he has ties there. Like I said, the Cavs, he doesn't have ties with the Knicks necessarily, but again, the history and stuff like that. So that's why I think it's definitely a possibility. Now, the reports are that apparently the Cavs and the Knicks and I guess other teams as well, but those two specifically who were mentioned, don't have interest unless he was bought out. And to be fair, that is definitely a valid, concern and a way for them to want LeBron. Because if he gets bought out, then they don't have to break up, any of their team. Like, if LeBron gets bought out, the Knicks can keep the same team and then add LeBron, right? Like, how crazy would that be? And the same thing with the Cavs. They keep the same team and then add LeBron. Maybe you give up like a mid-level player or something like that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, the roster is going to be crazy on both teams. If you just add LeBron to those two teams and don't give up anybody, the roster is crazy. Like, they are definitely, whoever that team is, will 100% be favorites to come out of the East. And they might be one of the favorites to win the title, depending on, how it works out and stuff like that. Like, they'll definitely be a top 4 favorite to win the title, I'll say. Maybe top 3. So with that being said, obviously a buyout is more ideal for these other teams because, making a trade is tricky and they don't want to, get stuck giving up players, and it's just difficult. The Lakers, though, I feel like if LeBron went to them and said, I want to buy out, I feel like they would do it. I feel like they have enough respect between each other that they would do it. But in general, I feel like the Lakers would be like, let us work out a trade. Let us please find a trade first instead. And the reason is because they don't really get much benefit by buying out LeBron. They get way more benefit by trading him, because LeBron, even at 40, is still pretty valuable. He's not going to get what Giannis would get, but he definitely is going to get you some value. Like I said, maybe a Darius Garland type player. And that's a really, really good player. That's an all-star level player. So, it would be hard on the Lakers, to just be like, okay, we'll just, buy you out and really get nothing for you, right? But, like I said, if LeBron went to them and said, I really want to be bought out, I feel like they would do it. Because he brought them a championship, and I feel like they wouldn't do that to him. I'm just saying, ideally, they wouldn't want to do that. They'd rather trade him and get something back. So I understand why the Cavs and the Knicks and other teams would want him to be bought out. I just don't know how likely and possible it is, because when you do a buyout, he's going to have to give back some money. And I don't know if LeBron wants to, forfeit any of his salary, to be honest. I know he can make up, some of the money maybe if he gets a mid-level, but he can't even get the mid-level because the Knicks just gave the mid-level to Gershon Yabusele or whatever. So, I don't think he wants to give up any money, but it's definitely a possibility. But with all that being said, I feel like I'm not calling bluff on, I keep pointing out the Cavs and the Knicks. It's obviously all the teams around the league. But those are the two, like I said, in my mind, who I feel like are the top favorites. Whether that's right or wrong, that's just my opinion. I'm calling bluff on them not having interest in trading for him rather. That, again, no inside information. This is just me, my opinion. The reason I'm calling bluff, in a sense, yes, they would prefer him to be bought out and not have to trade for him and all that stuff. It's still, though, LeBron. And again, if in the Knicks scenario, if you have to just give up Cat, but you still have Brunson, OG, Josh Hart, McHale, Jordan Clarkson, Miles McBride, Mitchell Robinson, like all the signings you got off the bench, and you just add LeBron, I don't think that they would. I don't know how to explain this properly, but like I don't think they would be like, we are not considering that, is what I'm saying. Like, if they feel like adding LeBron makes them a championship contender, even though in this scenario they would have to give up Cat, or that they would win the championship, whatever, even though they would have to give up Cat, I think they would consider it. They would prefer a buyout, but I don't think it's like, oh, they have no interest. You know what I'm saying? They're saying that, and that's fine. And maybe I'm wrong because, again, I have no inside information. But I feel like it's the same thing with the Cavs. Like, they're saying no interest because, obviously, let's be real. If any team around the league is like, oh, we really want this player, their leverage goes down. Like, whenever it comes out that a player wants to be traded, the team's leverage goes down because everyone knows the player wants out, so then they can't get as much for them, right? So I feel like it's the same thing, in this sense, where it's like, yes, they might have interest in trading for LeBron, but if they come out and say, we really want to trade for LeBron, right? Their leverage goes down, then the Lakers can ask for more from them, right? So I'm not saying it's not true because I don't know. What I'm saying is I'm slightly, on my own opinion, calling slight bluff, where I'm saying I think they would prefer a buyout. I think they would prefer not to have to make a trade. But I think if the price was right, I'm not sure they say no on a trade for LeBron. So thank you guys so much for watching this live stream. I hope you enjoyed, and see you soon. Bye.